AITA for accepting money from my grandparents and telling my parents off because my parents tried to force them to see my stepsister as their grandkid. When I turned 18, I realized I lost touch with my grandparents after my dad remarried. They reached out to me after my birthday to explain that my parents cut them off over a fight about accepting my stepsister as family. My grandparents have been saving money for me and want to reconnect, so I've started meeting with them. I plan to use the money for school instead of going into debt. When I told my parents, they were furious and caused a big argument. They think I'm being a brat for wanting to reconnect. So I turned 18 this year. I was 11 or 12 when I stopped seeing my grandparents, and looking back on it, they stopped coming around when my dad got remarried. I had a very good relationship with them before my dad got remarried. I thought they just didn't care anymore until they contacted me after my birthday. They asked me to meet up with them and talk. I was hesitant, but I wanted answers. They informed me that they were cut off by my parents and couldn't contact me. That around the time they were getting married, a huge fight happened. It boiled down to my parents wanting them to accept my stepsister, 16 right now, as their grandkid. My grandparents told them no, and huge fight. They banned them from contacting me. They informed me that they have been saving up money for me and want to get to know me again. I have been meeting them since. I am in college and I plan on using the money instead of talking on any more debt. I also have been going to a community college and will transfer to a better school. I informed my parents that I am looking to transfer, and they brought up I will go into debt. I informed them of the money I got from my grandparents. This caused a huge fight, and they are pissed that I would take money from them. I am pissed that they ruined my relationship with them, especially since my sister doesn't even see us as family. She doesn't call my dad, but would ruin my relationship with my nana and papa. They think I am being a brat. Relevant comments. Commenter. NTA. You should develop a relationship with your grandparents, and your parents are AHs for stopping that. They used you as a pawn to have your grandparents to try to convince them to accept your stepsister. That was unacceptable, but they can't do that anymore. I like that you're avoiding debt. That'll help in the future. But don't discount community college just because you can afford a different school. OP. I hate my community college. That is the main reason. I am getting my standard transferable credits, and I am out. Commenter. NTA. First off, I think it is great that your nana and papa care enough about you to want to be in your life and want to support you. Your dad and stepmom are TAs here, expecting everyone to just bless their union as if everyone can become just one big happy family. Their cutting off you from your nana and papa was cruel and completely unnecessary and robbed you of the love and support all those years. What I would do is see if your nana and papa would take you in while you go to college so you can just get away from the whole toxic life your dad and stepmom have created. They may be up for it, who knows, because you really need to get away from those who betrayed you. It isn't going to get any better until you do leave. OP. They actually offered me to stay in their side home. They have a normal house and another much smaller home on their property. Story 2. AITA for telling my brother he's wasting his life and needs to get it together. So my younger brother, 19M, moved in with me, 22F, a few months ago after dropping out of college. He spends all day gaming and scrolling through social media while I'm busting my ass at work. I come home to a messy apartment and him still in his pajamas. I've tried talking to him about maybe getting a job or doing something productive, but he always says he's taking a break or figuring things out. Yesterday, I came home after a 10-hour shift to find the sink overflowing with dirty dishes, trash everywhere, and him yelling at his game because he lost a match. I asked if he could at least help keep the place clean, and he snapped that it's not a big deal. That's when I kind of lost it. I told him he's wasting his life, that time's flying by, and he's gonna regret it if he doesn't start doing something now. I might have said he's being a freeloading bum and needs to grow up. He got super defensive and said I'm being harsh and don't understand what he's going through. Now things are awkward at home, and I'm wondering if I was too hard on him. AITA for pushing him like that? Edit. I spoke with my brother, and he told me it frustrated him because he feels like he's not able to accomplish anything, and it's really affected his self-esteem, which is why he's always staying inside. I also showed him that cloudburst calculator someone mentioned, and he was pretty shocked seeing the long-term numbers laid out in front of him. It seems like he does want to change for the better, but has been feeling overwhelmed lately. Thanks for the genuine comments offering suggestions. Relevant comments. Commenter. NTA. Time for you to set some boundaries. You need to give him a time limit on getting a job and a rule about house cleaning. If he is not working after 30 days or does not clean up after himself daily, he will receive an eviction notice. It's time he started aching like a young adult. He can find himself while being responsible, and maybe working a generic job will prompt him to go back to school or find a trade skill he can learn. OP. I agree, but the thing is, he doesn't listen to me. He's the youngest, and the parents' favorite, which is why they get angry at me for being harsh on him. Commenter. Then send him back to your parents. Story 3. A disabled person let themselves into our apartment while me, F21, and my BF, M22, were in the bathtub. This just happened a few hours ago, and I'm honestly still just in shock and not sure how to proceed. My BF got home from work today, and since we're both exhausted from working, we had decided to have a chill night and have a bubble bath together. I'm usually very good about reminding my BF to lock the doors or locking them myself because we don't live in the best area, so the fact that this happened is just a complete shock to me. We get settled in the tub at about 10 p.m. We're having a nice bubble bath and chatting together. Not even 10 minutes into our relaxation time, we hear what sounds like our front door opening and closing. For context, we live in an apartment complex, and sometimes the sounds of our neighbors' doors closing can be loud, so we sat there in denial for a moment about what was happening. After we exchanged a few hushed, disbelief sentences, our bathroom door, which was also not locked, slid open, and I watched in horror as the head of someone I do not know poked into our bathroom. And obviously, we started freaking out and yelling. They gave us the finger and retreated, and my BF proceeded to jump out of the tub, butt naked, covered his junk, and chased them across our apartment while I cowered in the tub. They got to the door, where the disabled person who was now outside of our apartment turned around, gave him the finger again, and said, "Fuck you." My BF told me he just didn't know what to do at that point, as the person was clearly disabled and not able to comprehend the weight of their actions, and he was in a very vulnerable position, so he just shut the door and locked it. And we've obviously been very shaken up since and just in utter disbelief. We got dressed afterwards and walked outside very unsure of what we were expecting, just I guess in shock and confusion. They were nowhere in sight until we walked down a few buildings and saw them in their window. We have seen this person in their window where I assume they and their caregiver live a few buildings down from us in our apartment complex. I'm not sure if we handled this situation correctly, as I've never had an intruder come into my home while I'm in the bathtub before. I suggested to my BF that we leave the apartment manager a message about what happened and maybe go let the caregiver know during the daylight what their daughter did, so maybe they can prevent it from happening to us or anyone else again. This has been one of my worst fears since moving into my own place, is an intruder coming into my home unwelcome, and being in such a vulnerable state when it happened just has me completely shook and in disbelief. We've been joking and laughing about it since it happened, but it's honestly a really scary experience to have, and I do not want it to happen again. The only thing that kept me from calling the cops was the fact that they were disabled, and I don't think they understood what they were doing very much. But I needed to get it off of my chest because WTF. Relevant comments. Commenter. Call the police. If they really didn't understand what they were doing, then that's on the caregiver. Allowing them roam around the complex is dangerous, just as it would be for a child. Imagine what would have happened if they walked into an apartment of someone who was armed with a gun. Commenter. A few buildings down, caregiver needs to be fired if they're paid, and potentially has child services called if they're not. That's not knowing how the person is mentally disabled. However, if it was visually identifiable. Also, not knowing the age of the disabled person. Additional information from OP. Firstly, I did not expect this to blow up as much as it has, so I thought I would make a general comment to answer and respond to things multiple people are saying. 1. As stated in my post, we are very good about locking our doors. This was an isolated incident. It just so happens that the one time we forgot to lock our front door, an intruder came in. 2. I appreciate all of the advice and responses. I understand we did not handle the situation as appropriately as we should have. It was a very staggering and bewildering experience, and frankly, it was hard to navigate what to do next. I admit I'm overly empathetic when I should not be, even to home intruders apparently, and that it doesn't matter if they were disabled or not. And despite there being mixed opinions on this, I should have still treated it the same as if they were not. 3. People have asked me, how do I know they were disabled? Or disabled how? I'm not quite sure how I'm supposed to answer that, as I don't know them personally, and I am not their caregiver, but they seemed physically a bit impaired, hunched over, strange way of walking, and their speech seemed as if they had some form of either dysarthria or aphasia. 4. All of this being said, moving forward I will be making a police report of the incident. All of what you have said is true, and it needs to be reported as it is very dangerous for all parties involved. I will also be speaking with the caregiver to inform them of what happened, try to figure out how it happened, see if they will be doing anything to prevent it, and letting them know if it happens again, I will be calling the police immediately. Lastly, I will be speaking with our apartment management, so they are also aware of it, and can maybe help prevent it from happening again or allow us to install a better lock. 5. Finally, thank you so much for all of the feedback. The responses have been very helpful and informative. It's definitely okay to understand the gravity of the situation and still make light of it and find it a little funny. Certain details of the experience are pretty chuckle-worthy, and I'm not offended at anyone having a giggle about it. Thank you. Story 4. I think I might be smelling cancer. This started in my teens. My dog began emitting a strange smell that bothered me. Nobody else could smell it, but I shrugged them off as nose-blind and that it must just be an old dog smell. Around the same time, he developed what I first thought was a fat lump. We took him to the vet, and it was mast cell cancer. Ever since I occasionally get this scent on people, my uncle before being diagnosed with throat cancer, my grandmother before discovering melanoma, my friend's dog before dying of cancer found in the autopsy, and random people I meet. Of course, the logical explanation is that I'm just smelling something and I'm just making the personal connection to the heartbreak and memories of losing my family dog, and everything else is just a coincidence. I feel like I'm going crazy by even considering I have some sort of special ability. I don't want to be one of those people, but it's too much of a coincidence that every single time I've smelled it on somebody I know, they turn out to have cancer a month down the line. Nobody else can ever smell it, and it smells awful, like nothing else I've smelled before. I can only compare it to a portable toilet smell, chemicals and filth, but it's completely distinct from anything else. It's starting to upset me because lately I've smelled it on my partner. He's been sluggish and feeling under the weather and won't see a doctor. I've been trying to convince him, but I haven't told anyone that I think I might be able to smell cancer. I don't want to sound like a nut because it is absolutely something a crazy person would delude themselves with to feel special. Edit. Wow, I didn't expect such a positive reception. I was so embarrassed about this and thought I'd be ripped apart, but the comments have been a real eye-opener. I didn't realize it was so common, and mentions of smelling fever, flu, colds, and periods. Funnily enough, I thought that was normal. Just, I can smell cancer was a step too far. I'll certainly bring it up to my BF tomorrow. He had cancer years before I met him. Leukemia, I can't remember what type, but in his words, it wasn't the bad one. Treatment was hellish, but successful, but I'm terrified that it's come back. At least now I can be honest with him on exactly why I'm pushing for him to see a doctor for him being under the weather and getting old. Even if he thinks it's ridiculous, I know he'll go once he knows just how worried I am. Relevant comments. Commenter. As others have said, not crazy at all. Get your partner to a doctor. The smell you describe is a great description for what polyamines smell like. Commenter. Just look that up. That makes total sense. Those are substances involved in cell growth, so a near universal trait of cancers would be overproduction of them. If those have a detectable scent some people are sensitive to, that would explain the phenomenon entirely. Commenter. It's known that cancer has a smell. Dogs can definitely smell it, so why not humans that have an extra sensitive sense of smell? Everyone can smell sickness, right? It's got that very distinct smell. Apparently no. I posted on here a few months ago on here that I could and got dozens of replies saying how useful of a skill that must be. I just thought everyone could do it. That explains when I say, they don't smell sick, talking about my children and why I know they're not sick when they have allergy symptoms. I get weird looks, lol. Story 5. Man who gave my dad HIV finally goes to prison. Okay, the backstory. My dad, C, was gay and in a monogamous relationship with this psychologist, John, for something like 9 years. I don't remember exactly how long they were together because I was just a kid. Sometimes John would go into the city overnight for work, and Dad would have these weird charges on his card from John's overnight, but they've been together a while. Dad trusts him, so he doesn't question it until he does. Dad looks up the charges, and when he finally figures it out, he's floored. His monogamous partner has been frequenting a bathhouse for years. Dad corners John. John denies everything. Dad shows him proof, the charges on the card. They break up. Dad moves out of John's house, and Dad gets tested. Tests come back HIV+. In 2007, Dad dies of AIDS. Long story. Take your meds, folks. I have never, ever looked up John. I couldn't stomach seeing the man that gave my dad the disease that killed him. Doing well, enjoying life. I just couldn't, until today. I Googled John. He was arrested this year for property damage and was being held in BFE, Texas until trial because he was a fugitive who sent a 1,000-page memoir to court instead of going himself. He also admitted to burning CPS records in his backyard, and when he requested a court-appointed attorney, was denied by the judge because he makes too much. I can't tell you what it's like to see someone finally, after 25 years, get his comeuppance. Karma's a bitch, ain't it, John? Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you enjoyed our videos, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to stay updated with our latest ones. Have a great day.